Hello everybody, pull this back in frame a little bit. Angle that better. Okay, there we go. So welcome back to probably the second to last, or I'm getting close with this build, being finished with it. I built it all on live stream, so you can see the complete ins and outs of pretty much everything I did on the those videos. The couple things I didn't do is on actual stream was sand this because I wanted to take it outside. That was it really. Everything else has pretty much been put on or built while streaming. So it's all live. You can go back there and check it out if you want to use anything for reference, or if you need any inspiration, or if anything on here is inspiring you and you want to know how I built it. It's probably about 90% scratch build, maybe a little bit more. I'm using these old GW pieces from, I don't know, 2011, I want to say. I got them in a kit when City Fight came out, and I've been breaking them apart and using them over and over for quite a few years now. So it just goes to show that a terrain kit, you don't have to build a terrain kit once. Like, if you want to, break it apart and make another one out of it. So today I want to continue working on the wiring and some more detailing, some more paneling, I think, more MDF chunks, just to give more geometric shapes. I got to build something up here that that these wires will input into, and then start putting some texture on it. But really, it just needs like fiddly details right now. So I'm gonna do that for a little while. We're gonna fiddle with details for a few minutes. I'm just cutting a piece of foam. I got my procs on around the corner. I'm just gonna cut a piece of XPS foam to kind of fit here to give me something to build off of. Okay, so I cut myself a nice little cube. It's gonna fit up here on top of this. Excuse me. I think maybe that needs some like piping too up there. Look around in the piping bin. So you can't spill it all on the ground and get back in there. Okay, so a little something like that. So turn it this side so you get kind of a cross section. So I guess I could do it like here. No, I definitely don't. I definitely don't like that as much. It sticks out quite a bit. At least here it still leaves this area open, so I could even do some a platform here if I wanted to, or a walkway or something. Or I could leave it so that you could place a walkway there if you when you're modularly building your table before a game. Because that's one of my favorite things about Necromunda is how you can use the same pieces over and you just put a walkway in a different spot or a ladder in a different spot, and it changes the whole setup. So I'm gonna cut this down, I think, so that it fits up here better. And then probably do a little EVA foam detail on this as well. So we'll start with that. For cutting, I will use a razor saw. I do have a jig that I can hold this with, but I don't think this is necessarily needed right here. Oh man, I think I grabbed the small saw. So these razor saws are great, but they do come in different size teeth, and the finer the teeth, obviously the finer the cut is going to be, but also the more work it's going to take to get through something. And I have one that's like a little bit, it's got a wood handle, it's got bigger teeth, so it cuts this a lot quicker. I'll pull it back so you can see what I'm working on right here. So bam. That's the beginning of it. Let's see if we can get ourselves a little piece of EVA. Probably try to use one of these pieces that I cut earlier. Grab my square. And unfortunately my razor blade still hasn't been replaced. So we're just going to build this thing on this razor blade on its last leg. But that's fine. So far this whole piece has been built without me getting a new razor blade. So it is possible. You don't have to have the sharpest blade. You don't have to be the sharpest tool. You just got to be a tool. So I'm going to do some EVA details on here. Whenever I do this, I always try to think about where the visual side is and where the hidden side is. So I'm going to try to put this joint, of course, on the hidden side. And usually I start with this by just tacking one end down where I want it and letting that cool so that it doesn't shift, because the EVA foam is really stretchy. It's kind of like working with cloth. So it moves around a lot more. And if you're not prepared to do that and you're just used to shoving glue and plastic chunks together, and then you grab a piece of EVA foam, all of a sudden you've stretched it and it looks weird. I did that on the last piece. I have watch the last video that you see me have to tear a chunk apart because I got a little excited with it. But so yes, this is the time-consuming part of builds. Usually is trying to get all the little detail bits on. But it is also, I would say, probably the most satisfying after you put the effort in. More satisfying, I feel like, than the final end result. Maybe on par with the final end result. Once you get the detail and the detail gets to that point where it's like, that looks good, that's a pretty satisfying moment. So we're gonna just go ahead and glue this here so I don't mess it up. put that right in the center and let it set for a minute so that I don't mess it up. My next thing is that I want to do some wires connecting to this, and this needs some sort more detail. So I think I might use some EVA to just give it another kind of paneling. English or Spanish? Well, I mean, I suppose it matters what you speak. I only speak English, although I do know a little Spanish, or have been exposed to some Spanish. But Durzen, the myth, the legend. How you doing, buddy? I saw your piece on Instagram. That looked so sick, especially with the models. You saw how the oil wash just brings it out, that sort of grime. Oh yeah, you know it. So I'm gonna keep with this. I've heard people talk shit about using like Lego bits in terrain. I don't know why. I mean, if you want your terrain to look like Legos, build the whole fucking thing out of Legos. Yes, the oil wash. It was cool that you jumped into it. I was really scary for me. I didn't want to mess anything up, so I put oil washes on. I didn't do oil washes for years. I painted oils on canvas, but I never put it on a mini because the thinner can just destroy things. But once you did it, it's like, hey, this is cool. Now, like I said, we were talking yesterday or the day before. Just be careful because it looks so cool that you want to put more, and then that's when that white spirits or mineral spirits or whatever you're using starts to peel things away, which could be a cool effect. I've thought about that too, of just like pretty much throwing garbage at throwing different paint mediums at something until it just looks completely worn away. But yeah, that's what I usually end up doing, is just going with like tacky glue or whatever and touching up, because it usually dries pretty clear anyways. But so yeah, people talk shit about using Legos, or I've heard shit talks about using Legos. I use them for details because they're perfectly sharp angles. So especially if you need like wires to run into something. If I got these wires up here that I put on yesterday, and I want them to run into something, I can just put this right there and put the wires into it. See what I'm saying? Like, you're not gonna. I'm going to hide the Lego exposed pieces like we tried to do, but. And then using the XPS foam too, you can kind of give yourself a guide just by pressing it in there. But yeah, it's the only reason that I use them really is because, and I might have to cut this out a little bit. They're one of those things that you can find like in garbage toy sets all the time, like little chunks of building blocks. And it's not, you definitely have to do work to them to make them not look like a Lego, but that's what you're doing anyways with garbage. You're doing some work to it to make it not look like a water bottle or a Pringles can or whatever. So why not use it? So I cut a little bit out. Slide the piece in there, and then when the wire's sticking in there, all you're going to really see is this cube. And you might recognize that. I guess the lighting's not too good. There you go. You might recognize that little hole if you're like a Lego head, but whatever. If you're a Lego head, you'll probably appreciate that I used the Lego in there. I kind of want to paint one and see if anyone can pick out all the little Lego pieces to see if that's if it's that noticeable. That might be a fun little thing to do. So I do want to put some EVA foam on the front of this, so we're gonna do that too. Clean up my hot glue. So yeah, that's an easy little detail to throw on there. I did snag this piece out, which is like another Lego piece that's just smooth on one side. So I thought there might be some sort of paneling or something going on there. Let me see if I can. I can't really find anything else that any of the Lego pieces to make that look more uniform. So I might just do another chunk of EVA. Yeah, just to give that panel like a raised. Put this smooth piece right in the center. Oh. So, bam. Nice little easy detail piece. Done. So now I can stick that up here. Check my measurements. What I'm seeing is that this isn't lining up quite right, so I'm going to do EVA foam along this seam too, leaving a little bit of overhang, and then because the EVA foam is flexible, you can get the hot glue in there and it kind of works like a gap filler. It works really well for that, in fact. So it's supposed to get me tricky because I don't have very much to stick it to on the bottom. So I'm just gonna have to hold it for a second. But what up, War Tiger? Good to see you, bud. Yeah, this is the one that you were like, you know, you asked to see the layout. This is where it's at. It's getting pretty close to being finished. I'm just working on some details to add to it. If you missed any of the videos, the live streams, I think all of them are up right now on my channel, so you could go back and check out, you know, how it progressed if you're missing anything. And if you can actually kind of use the live stream has been interesting because it has given me a idea of how much time it takes me to build stuff a little bit more, as opposed to just checking the clock every once in a while, because I have a time stamp of videos now. So it's this is number 7, and I've been trying to work in hour-long videos, so it has been 7 hours of work on that. I do have to say that I get distracted by talking. So if I was just in my zone with headphones on or music blasting and cranking this out, I definitely feel like I could do more. In that time. So I'm right now my thought is probably knock at least an hour off for fiddling, maybe 2. Yes, yes. I ended up doing like scaffolding on the height platforms. Um, I don't know if you saw me put these dowels in here down into the box down below. That solved the structural integrity problem of that bottle. Um, then I ended up caulking the big piece and the box together and clamping it and leaving it for a while, um, just to give this more structural integrity, because these were all kind of floppy. um, and that's always a good thing to do, to check the integrity of the piece, because if you're gonna have people playing on it, um, somebody's gonna fat hand smash it, and if it's really fragile, yeah, yeah. And the EVA foam really helps for that. Just to add, like, here, I'll rotate it so you can see that I just put EVA foam straps, and then this, I use the EVA foam butting up against this box here, and the corrugated cardboard to kind of block the joint where all the caulking is between these two. And the caulking is rubbery, so it works really good to adhere things together that are going to take shocks. Like I did this whole piece with caulking and with some skewers down in there, because I know that this is going to get right. Like, I can move it, like, which is great if you're trying to move, pieces of terrain, because they're a pain in the butt. And these ones are going to be explicitly pain in the butt, because any of them that I use these tubes on are very tall. I don't really have shelves that are that size that I can put on. So they've been living in the basement, or on the basement floor right now. So I hope it doesn't flood again. Alright, I'm going to turn this way. It's going to make it a little bit more difficult for me to build it this way, but I want you to be able to see. I'm going to make sure that at least this short wire can make it into the little piece here. And that looks great. Put a little pressure here, and we'll bring this a little closer. You can see that joint, how it solves that gap, the space between, instead of trying to cut the piece of plastic or drill a hole in the cardboard, the little EVA works like a perfect little gasket. Just got to make sure that the hot glue solidifies pretty good. And then we have this wire we're gonna slide in here, and go ahead and give it. Should I just run? Excuse me. Should I just run these wires into that too? I think so. And I can use those extra pieces for just more detail around the rest of the project. So, man, we got our little detail piece on the top so that those wires had a home to go to, and just to give us another little visual stimulation up here, because just having a bunch of flat surfaces looking down on it, it actually looks kind of boring. So that's why instead of just leaving these here or trying to fill in a blank spot right here, I opted for putting just some scatter pieces sort of thing to give it more visual interest, visual stimulation. So I do have where these wires come out, but I don't feel like they need to go to anything for some reason. I kind of feel like just getting them to kind of snake their way down into this passage. Here, I'll bring it up closer so you can see where this wire now, that harness that I made last time, comes all the ways up into this new detail piece we just built. And then instead of trying to find a place for that to into another electronic device or something like that, I just chose to spiral them down, because this is doing its job of distracting you from looking down into the joint of these two pieces. So that looks great. And then I did have a couple extra wires that I had snipped off right there. So one of my favorite details to add is just like, we can cut these down again, little blob of hot glue, and then we're gonna just shove that into the, oh, too far. Shove that into that pipe a little bit, and really I should be letting it cool first. You let it cool and you bend it down, and it gives a nice effect. So got another one of those over here, and maybe this time I'll just bend it first. That seems like the smart way. Hot glue. Oh, I'm gonna hot glue it to my finger, and then to my other finger. There you go. And as I've said before, my rule with hot glue, you get the blobs, wherever you get the blob, just smear it with your hand a little bit, smear it with a stick or the tip of the hot glue gun, just to give it some texture, so that other textures and glues and adhesives stick to it. I did forget to put any sort of thing back here inside of the box, I'm realizing, but I kind of like it. It's just another space that you can't really get your hand, you can't get a mini in, but you can easily see into it. That's cool. Yeah, yes. In fact, that's another thing that I'm working on, is trying to build square bases for the Giants. I definitely want to play some regiments. I was talking to Steve about it. It looks really cool. So I think the only thing I really need to do here is we need a ladder there, from this to this, and then oh yes, I do want to add some more geometric shapes to this, so I'm going to grab it's another sprue of MDF. It has a similar pattern to this piece, so I'm just going to go ahead and use it. Not quite. Not quite the height I wanted. So we'll just score it real quick. Where are we scoring? Yeah, that's fine. Give it a snap, and then we'll just act like this piece got busted off. Yeah, that's something like this. So now, they aren't very strong. They're like plywood MDF. They're not like this kind of MDF. But if you put skewers, bamboo skewers, glue them to that, which I'm gonna make one here in a second because I gotta make that other ladder. If you glue them to bamboo skewers, those bamboo skewers are pretty damn strong, and they're kind of messed up because if you're not careful with them and they splinter, you get one of those underneath your fingernail. It sucks. So I have come to respect the bamboo skewer, but I had a hard time with ladders. Yes, exactly, glued to stuff. But I've had a hard time with ladders for industrial terrain because you want them to look very manufactured, and hand making them using toothpicks, it does not. I mean, I can do a pretty good job to make it look like manufactured, but it looks like it was manufactured in like 1880. So it doesn't quite do the job. Yeah, I think I'm gonna break this here. And I want that to stick up. So then I'm gonna actually try to have a straight cut if it's possible. We're gonna put that there. Man, looks good. I like that. I still have this really ugly joint here out of the plastic sprues. That's difficult. I have tried that as well, and usually I have a container of sprues, but I threw a bunch of stuff away when my basement flooded, so I don't have as many resources as I guess I had piled up. But that's a good thing. It's good to purge that crap, and because you'll get a new piece and it will inspire you to build something else. So I was thinking of maybe trying to cover these real quick with some of this MDF. I think if I can just get something in this joint. That's why I grabbed those fairy ladders, was because I was looking for something that looked manufactured, but the ones that I've gotten before, and I've grabbed them, the ones that I knew about, right? Like, because that's part of the battle with building stuff, and whether it's models or anything. Like, if you don't know about the game or the system or the model producer or whatever, then you're not going to be able to use that resource. So the ones I knew about are cool as heck. They are from, I want to say, Evergreen Model Railroads or Plastruct. Those are the two that I knew about from like building model railroads when I was a kid. But I looked something up because I needed something way cheaper. This thing, and I think I've cut a couple pieces off of it. So I think it. No, that might be the whole one. It came with like 2 of these, and I think it was like 14 bucks. So it was not. I was like, this is not gonna. This is not sustainable. So I, 20 of these for $5, very much more sustainable. Then if I want a broken ladder, I don't have to worry about. Oh man, that cost me $3 right there to just put this broken ladder. Okay. But then again, I do like to build out of trash and recycled goods more than, I want to say more. I don't know. You'd have to, if GW wants to send me a whole bunch of kits to try to prove me wrong, I would say that I like building out of random garbage more than like a GW kit sprue or whatever. I haven't got to mess with 3D printed terrain very much, so that's another side of it that I haven't played with. Since I did that on one side, I'm going to do some on this side too, because I have the pieces right here and might as well just give it a little bit of detail. And really what that detail is doing is blocking up the horrible nasty joint where the plastic bottle meets the box. So, and it looks cool enough for me, so we are gonna keep going with it just to get a little consistency. Make sure to smear the hot glue. I don't want any shiny hot glue. That looks good. So, what else do I need to do? We got the wires done. Really, it looks like just the ladder. I could put some more of that detail here. Yeah, I do think so. Plus, it's kind of that like art out of garbage feel. You're making beautiful out of something that somebody's throwing away. So there is something more esoteric about it. That would be cool to have a resource where I had some bags of different ventilations and ladders and stuff. That would be really cool to have. So I'm not saying that 3D printing isn't a viable thing. I just don't have access to it, so it's not something that I've really got to experience. We're gonna build. Speaking of ladders, we're gonna build one right now, real quick. And the other cool thing about these too is that, like, you could use a bigger dowel if you wanted, if you were trying to be more structurally sound with something, you could easily glue that to a bigger dowel. But these smaller skewers seem to fit that perfectly. Oh, need more glue. Okay, so then I just try not to make a huge mess with the hot glue, but I do end up usually going back and hitting it with the hot glue gun again, just with the hot tip to rub it down. So then we're just gonna layer these pieces all together. And I realized that it's easier for me to make a whole strip of this, as opposed to just, you know, trying to build it exactly this height. I'll just put as many on there, and then I'll use the clipped off pieces, because I'll just glue them back together. So I'm gonna make this go down as far as I can, which it looks like I get 4. And I'm gonna measure real quick just to see. It's a little over 9 inches, which means it's like a 3-story ladder, which would be daunting for the average person to climb. So now that I got one side done, I'll just do a quick strip of hot glue all the ways down the other side. And if you noticed, I did let it stick to the table a little bit. I'll scrape the hot glue off of it later, and I don't mind the rough surface that it leaves. The only thing that I really worry about is the joint not actually sealing, because it wants to stick to the table more. So just gonna go with my hot glue and kind of fix this a little bit. And if you have like a heat gun, or I mean, I suppose you could use a lighter, but I try not to use open flame on hot glue, because it fumes really bad when it gets set on actual fire. So a heat gun would work better. But if you have a heat gun, you could probably just blast this with a heat gun and hit it with a popsicle stick. Kind of burnish it down with a popsicle stick and get rid of the excess plasticky bits sticking off. But if they look rough, I don't mind them, because they'll just help grab the texture later when I'm putting texture on everything. And the fact that the ladder pieces and the dowel are very geometrical and industrial looking will be nicely counterbalanced with the texture that gets left on it or put on it. So we can just flip this as well. I like to put it as far that way as I can, and sticking up as much as I can. So we're gonna go right here. Where is my Sharpie? So I'm gonna do this with the razor saw, simply because I have it out, and I'm gonna put it on the table edge so I don't cut a big chunk out of my workbench, although I've done that 100 times. Don't know what I'm worried about. Scored it a little bit, pop it apart. So if you caught the last, I don't know if it was the last one. I think it was the last one I put this. Oh, let me move this. Sorry. I put this ladder on. I'm gonna go ahead and replicate that same technique here with this ladder, which is, again, we're gonna pop back to the Lego thing. These pieces, there was a bunch of them in a bag, and a bunch of these pieces, which I still have no idea what to do with. But snagged a bag of Legos out of the garbage, or out of the to donation. And I got these pieces, and I really like them. I take the couple of these fronds. I guess this is supposed to be a leaf. I remember these from being a kid from the pirate set, and these were the palm tree leaves. No, the palm tree leaves are different. Hell, I don't know what I remember. Anyways, I take these little pieces. Two center ones have the longest stem, unless you want to trim these other ones off, and then you can get a little bit of a longer one there. But these are the easiest, and that's going to be the perfect length. And I will attach these right to the top. Sometimes it'll just fit in there and pop in there, but it's not going to this time. So I'm just going to trim this up a little bit, and I'm going to trim the outside of the skewer, but I'm not going to go in towards it, and then not because I'm worried about cutting myself, because if you go in from the end, you can separate the striations in this and split these really easy. So if you're ever trying to whittle it down, just start from the end, little nicks, as opposed to going from this side. You'll take too much off. And I don't doubt that this side has the same problem. So I'm just gonna slim it up a little bit too, because I'm gonna use hot glue to glue them together anyway, so it's not like they have to be like a perfect fit. It just has to fit on there. So, bam. Little ladder holder. You can see the pieces right here, how I did it. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this right in here. So now sometimes, if the measurement is perfect, I'll try to like poke a hole like I did here. I like the way that looks. If it isn't, I don't worry about it. I don't try to fiddle with the size of the ladder or anything, because it's too easy to break it apart and have, take a step back instead of a step forward. So what I'll do is I'll just find some other little details to mount these with up here, and I will show you that by tilting this. So you can see that this clears this just a little bit, as opposed to running into the top piece. Bam. There you go. I actually got you a view. So it clears it, as opposed to me punching holes in there and mounting it that way. But that's okay. I'm going to mount it here, and I could always put like another railing if I really wanted to, of these, because when you do that, like how I built this platform, if you add another one, it gives you supports to be able to add railing if you want to build your own railing, and it makes it look a little bit more defensible. Like this looks like just like an industrial platform that you just set something on, but when you start layering up those extra layers, it starts to look more like something built for military purpose as opposed to industrial purpose. So I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to find two things that I can mount up here to make it look like pegs that that those big metal straps are welded into or something. I think I have a couple pieces. These Lego pieces here look like they could, support a strap or something. Here we go. We'll just do this. So I'm just gonna flip that Lego piece over, pop it into another one. I think that's a fucking flower, but I don't know if it really matters, right? It doesn't. And then here's something that has same pattern, and we're going to flip them upside down, and that is very less recognizable. I don't know if you can see that shape, as opposed to having the little leg. You know, I don't have to scrape anything off or anything. And then this here, I mean, I could just glue. That fits almost perfectly into that, but I'll probably do like I suppose I could just glue. That looks pretty good, actually. So let's fix this here. So that's the weird, oh, that's the weird makeshift Lego contraption I use to strap up down that jammy pack. No, to strap this ladder that we built up to this. So we can glue this other side real quick. So made another one. Then I'm just gonna glue it to the top of this. Here, I'm gonna scoot this back a little bit so you can see what my hands are actually doing, and you can watch me mess up and burn myself with the hot glue. And then you'll know that even if the piece looks cool, the guy who built it is just as weird as you. So probably weirder. So blam, there's our little mounting brackets. Now that looks a little bit serious to hold a ladder for the scale of the ladder, but once we get it up on here, I think it'll look great. It does look really good. Bam. But I have been trying to keep these live videos at about an hour. I am basically documenting how long it takes me to build one of these. Like I said earlier, it does take longer when I'm talking and distracted and trying to explain, as opposed to it just being in my head. So I'm probably going to wrap up here pretty soon. I'm going to get this ladder, I think, up on here, and then we're going to take ourselves a break. I'll probably be... I will probably be back on later. Yeah, the mounting points for ladder. So then if you're... I actually ended up taking those little other pegs off because they aren't doing it for me up there. If you are putting it directly against a wall, just taking something and gluing it here so that it isn't flush against the wall, it just adds to the realism. Because if you ever look at like fire escape ladders, it's not flush against the wall. There's quite a bit of, it actually sticks out quite a bit from the wall. So that just adds to that realism a little bit. Now, I accidentally popped that one apart because I was fiddling with it too much, and I think what I'll end up having to do is put these on the bottom here, because I added too much height here and it's just not lining up right. But if I put those weird pegs on the bottom, it fits perfectly. And I can always put some EVA foam or something later here on the top, or something that looks like a rivet or a bolt or a screw. But I'm going to go ahead and glue this on here now so I don't fiddle with it a bunch and break it again. And I will just let that sit and cool, so I don't. Oh, see, I slid it already. So I don't mess it up right now. I'll come back and hit it with some more hot glue next time, probably. Put that on the list. But as far as the next part of the build, I might put a little bit more, like I said at the beginning of the video, a little bit more of this type of stuff around, just to give variance when you're looking up from the, or down from the top. Because when you're playing on it, that's going to be your view. And if everything is flat and featureless on the top, even if from the side it is in this incredible diorama, you're just looking at the top of a box type of thing. So I'll probably put some more details on that, and then I just have to seal it. But I'm gonna head off, but before, I'll give you a quick 360 of how it's come out so far. I think this is 7 hours in with explaining and communicating and talking to people too. So you could do this as well. Right on. Well, I'm gonna go get a drink of water, and I will catch you guys later.